Introduction. Mary thought she was doing everything right. She read parenting books, attended school events religiously, and prided herself on being nothing like her own narcissistic mother. Her 8-year-old daughter was polite, well-behaved, and got good grades. From the outside, their family looked picture perfect. But during a routine family dinner at her mother's house, something shifted. Mary watched in horror as her mother systematically undermined her daughter's confidence with a series of seemingly innocent comments. "Oh, sweetie, you don't really want seconds, do you? We don't want you getting chubby like mommy was at your age." Then, turning to Mary with a saccharine smile, "I'm just helping her develop good habits. You were always so sensitive about these things." In that moment, Mary saw the invisible web of psychological manipulation that had ensnared 3 generations of women in her family. Her daughter's shoulders had slumped almost imperceptibly, and she'd pushed her plate away with the same shame-filled gesture Mary remembered making countless times as a child. The difficult childhood she thought she'd overcome was now poisoning her own daughter's sense of self-worth, one seemingly loving interaction at a time. That night, as Mary tucked her daughter into bed, she made a promise that would change everything. She would learn how to protect her child from psychological damage while still maintaining the family relationships that mattered to them both. This book contains the roadmap she wished she'd had, and the one you need now. Breaking the Cycle While Building Bridges. This book exists for one critical reason: to provide you with science-backed methods for raising psychologically strong children while navigating the complex reality of having a borderline or narcissistic parent in your family system. Unlike approaches that demand complete family estrangement or those that ignore the real damage toxic family members can cause, this book acknowledges a fundamental truth. Most families exist in the messy middle ground where relationships are complicated, love and manipulation intertwine, and children need protection without losing important family connections. You'll discover how to build your child's emotional resilience and self-worth despite toxic family dynamics, using evidence-based strategies that have been tested in real-world situations. This isn't about perfect solutions or one-size-fits-all approaches. It's about developing a sophisticated toolkit that adapts to your unique family circumstances while consistently protecting what matters most: your child's psychological well-being. The ultimate goal is transformation, not just survival. By the end of this journey, you'll have the knowledge and confidence to raise children who are not only protected from generational trauma, but actively empowered to break toxic cycles and create healthier relationships throughout their lives. This book is for the protectors and cycle breakers. This book is written specifically for parents, grandparents, and primary caregivers who find themselves caught between 2 powerful forces: their love for their children and the toxic patterns embedded in their family systems. You might be a parent who grew up with a narcissistic or borderline parent and now faces the challenge of protecting your children from similar psychological damage while maintaining family relationships that provide other forms of value and connection. Perhaps you're a grandparent who recognizes toxic patterns in your adult child's behavior and wants to be a source of healing and strength for your grandchildren without overstepping boundaries or creating family conflict. You could be a step-parent navigating the complex dynamics of a blended family where one biological parent exhibits narcissistic or borderline traits, or a primary caregiver who has taken on the responsibility of protecting children from family members whose mental health issues create ongoing emotional hazards. What unites all readers of this book is a shared recognition. You've identified toxic patterns in your family system. You understand that these patterns can cause real psychological harm to children, and you're committed to breaking generational cycles while building your children's resilience. You want practical, evidence-based strategies that actually work in real-world situations, not theoretical advice that falls apart when faced with the complex realities of family dynamics. Most importantly, you're someone who refuses to choose between protecting your children and maintaining family relationships. You believe it's possible to do both, and you're willing to do the hard work of learning sophisticated strategies that honor the complexity of your situation while keeping your children's psychological well-being as the top priority. Why this book is different. Beyond Survival to Empowerment. What sets this book apart from other resources on toxic family dynamics is its unique combination of cutting-edge psychological research, real-world practicality, and empowerment-focused approach. First, every strategy in this book is grounded in the latest research from developmental psychology, trauma studies, and family systems therapy. You won't find outdated advice or untested theories here. Instead, you'll discover evidence-based methods that have been proven to build resilience in children and protect them from psychological harm, even in challenging family environments. Second, this book addresses the unique challenges of maintaining family relationships while protecting children, a reality that most resources either ignore or oversimplify. Rather than offering blanket advice to cut off contact or pretend toxic behavior isn't happening, you'll learn sophisticated strategies for managing complex family dynamics that acknowledge both the potential benefits and real risks of ongoing relationships with narcissistic or borderline family members. Third, the focus here is on empowerment rather than just survival. While many resources help you recognize toxic patterns and cope with their effects, this book goes further by teaching you how to actively build your child's psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Your children won't just survive their exposure to toxic family dynamics. They'll develop the skills and inner resources to thrive despite these challenges. Finally, every chapter includes real family success stories and detailed case studies that show how these strategies work in practice. You'll see how families just like yours have successfully navigated similar challenges, providing both inspiration and practical guidance for implementing these approaches in your own unique circumstances. What to expect: your journey to family transformation. This book will take you on a carefully structured journey from recognition to mastery, moving through 10 comprehensive chapters that build upon each other to create a complete system for protecting and empowering your children. Your journey begins with recognition and assessment, where you'll learn to identify the specific ways toxic family dynamics manifest in your situation and understand their potential impact on your children's development. You'll discover the subtle signs of psychological manipulation and emotional damage that are often invisible to family members who grew up in similar environments. From there, you'll move into the foundational work of building your children's emotional resilience and self-worth. You'll learn evidence-based techniques for strengthening their psychological immune system, developing their emotional intelligence, and creating secure attachment relationships that serve as protective factors against toxic influences. The middle chapters focus on practical protective strategies, including how to prepare your children for challenging family interactions, how to debrief and process difficult experiences, and how to maintain healthy boundaries while preserving important relationships. You'll master the art of being your child's emotional translator and advocate without creating additional family conflict. As you progress through the book, you'll tackle increasingly sophisticated challenges, including how to handle family crises, how to support children through different developmental stages, and how to help them develop their own healthy relationship skills as they mature. The final chapters focus on long-term family transformation, showing you how to create lasting change in your family system while preparing your children to break generational cycles and create healthier relationships in their own lives. Throughout this journey, you'll encounter detailed case studies, practical exercises, assessment tools, and step-by-step implementation guides that ensure you can translate every concept into real-world action. Each chapter includes specific strategies you can implement immediately, along with guidance for adapting these approaches to your family's unique circumstances. Here's what you can expect to learn. Chapter 1 will help you recognize the hidden psychological battlefield where your child's mind is under attack. Chapter 2 explains why traditional parenting advice fails in toxic family systems and what works instead. Chapter 3 shows you how to build your child's emotional intelligence as their primary defense system. Chapter 4 teaches specific techniques for helping children deflect emotional manipulation. Chapter 5 provides strategies for rebuilding self-worth after toxic encounters. Chapter 6 reveals how to identify and counter manipulation tactics before they damage your child. Chapter 7 offers methods for maintaining relationships while staying psychologically safe. Chapter 8 demonstrates how to transform psychological wounds into sources of strength and wisdom. Chapter 9 guides you in building a support network that protects and nurtures your family. Chapter 10 delivers advanced strategies for creating long-term resilience and family transformation. Your commitment to change. The strategies in this book have the power to transform your family's emotional landscape, but only if you commit to engaging with them fully and implementing them consistently. Reading about these approaches isn't enough. Real change requires active participation and sustained effort. As you begin this journey, make a commitment to yourself and your children. You will read each chapter with an open mind, honestly assess your current family dynamics, and implement at least one concrete strategy from each section. Some of these strategies may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if they challenge long-standing family patterns or require you to set boundaries you've never maintained before. Keep a journal as you read, noting specific examples from your own family experience and tracking your progress as you implement new approaches. Pay attention to how your children respond to these changes, and be prepared to adapt strategies based on what works best for your unique situation. Remember that breaking generational cycles and building resilience is a marathon, not a sprint. Some changes will be immediately visible, while others will unfold over months or years. Trust the process, celebrate small victories, and maintain your commitment to protecting and empowering your children even when progress feels slow. Your children are counting on you to be the cycle breaker in your family system. The knowledge and tools you need are in these pages, but the courage and commitment to use them must come from within. Your journey to family transformation starts now. 1. The invisible battlefield, recognizing the hidden war for your child's mind. When hearts become hidden weapons. The most dangerous emotional attacks don't come with raised voices or clenched fists. They arrive wrapped in birthday presents, delivered with tender smiles, and spoken in the language of love. When a parent has borderline or narcissistic traits, their emotional manipulation operates like a sophisticated virus in the family system, spreading silently while disguised as normal parenting, genuine concern, or unbreakable family loyalty. Unlike physical abuse, which leaves bruises that heal and scars that serve as evidence, emotional manipulation creates invisible wounds that burrow deep into a child's developing psyche. These wounds can take years to recognize and decades to heal properly. Understanding this stealth nature becomes crucial for protecting your children from psychological damage while maintaining the delicate balance required in complex family relationships. The loving mask. Manipulative behaviors rarely announce themselves with obvious cruelty. Instead, they hide behind expressions of love, making them incredibly difficult to identify and even harder to challenge without feeling guilty or ungrateful. Common disguises include: I only check your phone because I love you so much. Real families don't keep secrets from each other. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? I'm just trying to protect you from making my mistakes. No one will ever love you like your family does. These statements contain just enough truth to feel reasonable, but they serve a deeper purpose. They establish control while making the child feel guilty for wanting normal boundaries or independence. Joseph grew up believing his father was simply very involved in his life. His father would read his diary and justify it by saying, I only do this because I love you so much and want to keep you safe. When Joseph got upset about this invasion of privacy, his father would become hurt and withdrawn, making comments like, I guess I care too much about my son. The manipulation was so skillfully disguised as paternal love that Joseph spent years feeling guilty for wanting basic privacy. He questioned whether he was being unreasonable or ungrateful. Now, as he watches his own children interact with their grandfather, Joseph recognizes the same patterns emerging and realizes he must act to protect his children's developing sense of self. Boundary erosion through gradualism. Manipulative parents don't typically start with major violations. They begin with small intrusions that seem insignificant or even caring. Over time, these minor boundary crossings create a new normal where increasingly inappropriate behavior becomes accepted. This process works like this. Stage 1: Testing waters. Small violations that can be explained away as care or concern. Maybe reading a young child's journal or going through their backpack, just to make sure they have everything. Stage 2: Normalizing intrusion. The behavior continues and expands slightly. The child's protests are met with explanations about family closeness or parental responsibility. Stage 3: Escalating control. Boundaries continue shrinking as the child's sense of what's normal becomes skewed. Privacy becomes seen as suspicious or selfish. Stage 4: Complete integration. The boundary violations become so normal that questioning them feels wrong or ungrateful to the child. Susan experienced this gradual erosion with her mother. It started with her mother wanting to know every little detail about her day because we're best friends. Soon her mother was reading her text messages, showing up at her workplace unannounced, and calling her friends to check up on her. When Susan tried to establish boundaries, her mother would cry and say, "I thought we were closer than this. I guess I was wrong about our relationship." The confusion factor. Perhaps the most damaging aspect of emotional manipulation in family systems is how it creates cognitive dissonance in children. They receive mixed messages that don't align with their instincts or experiences, leading them to question their own perception of reality. Common sources of confusion. Words versus actions. A parent says they love and support the child while consistently undermining their confidence. Public versus private behavior. The parent appears loving and supportive in public but becomes critical or controlling in private. Conditional love. Affection and approval depend on the child's compliance and performance. Gaslighting. The child's memories or perceptions are regularly questioned or dismissed. Children naturally want to trust their parents and maintain positive relationships with them. When faced with these contradictions, they often choose to doubt themselves rather than question their parents' behavior. This self-doubt becomes deeply ingrained and can persist well into adulthood. The psychological impact includes immediate effects: anxiety and hypervigilance, difficulty trusting their own judgment, perfectionism and people-pleasing behaviors, emotional dysregulation. Long-term consequences: relationship difficulties, poor boundary-setting skills, increased vulnerability to manipulation by others. Mental health challenges including depression and anxiety. Recognition strategies. Learning to identify emotional manipulation requires developing a new lens for viewing family interactions. Here are key warning signs. Guilt-based control. Love and approval are used as weapons to control behavior. The child feels responsible for the parent's emotional state. Privacy violations. Normal developmental needs for privacy and autonomy are treated as suspicious or selfish. Emotional parentification. The child becomes responsible for managing the parent's emotions or problems. Conditional relationships. The parent's love and attention fluctuate based on the child's compliance and performance. Understanding these patterns marks the beginning of protection. In the next chapter, we'll explore why traditional parenting advice often fails in these toxic family dynamics and learn specific strategies designed for these unique challenges. The invisible battlefield exists in millions of homes where love has become weaponized. Recognition is the first step toward building the armor your children need to survive and thrive despite these challenges. When words become weapons. Language becomes a battlefield when toxic family members master the art of verbal manipulation. These individuals develop fluency in a specialized language that sounds caring and reasonable on the surface, but carries harmful undertones designed to control, confuse, and damage. Learning to decode this manipulative language is essential for building your child's emotional resilience and helping them develop the critical skills needed to recognize manipulation before it takes root. This linguistic awareness becomes a powerful tool for maintaining necessary family relationships while protecting your children from psychological harm. When you understand how words can be weaponized, you can teach your children to recognize these patterns and respond appropriately rather than internalizing the toxic messages. Concern trolling, when care becomes control. One of the most insidious forms of verbal manipulation involves expressing worry or care as a vehicle for criticism, control, or boundary violations. This technique is particularly effective because it's difficult to challenge without appearing ungrateful or defensive. Common concern trolling phrases include, "I'm just worried that you're being too strict with the children. I'm concerned about how this decision will affect your future. I only say this because I care about you so much. I'm afraid you're making a mistake, but I'll support you anyway. I'm worried that you're isolating yourself from family." The key identifier is that these statements serve to undermine confidence, question judgment, or violate boundaries while positioning the speaker as caring and supportive. The manipulation lies in the fact that challenging these statements makes the recipient appear unreasonable or defensive. Beatrice used to dread family gatherings because her mother would inevitably pull her aside with concerns about her parenting. "I'm just worried that you're being too strict with little Damien," her mother would say, followed by subtle undermining of Beatrice's rules and decisions. When Beatrice would try to address these comments, her mother would respond with, "I can't believe you're attacking me for caring about my grandson. I guess I'll just keep my mouth shut from now on." It took Beatrice months of therapy to recognize that her mother's concern was actually a sophisticated form of manipulation designed to maintain control and create doubt about her parenting abilities. She learned to respond with phrases like, "I understand you care and I've got this handled," rather than engaging in lengthy justifications that only provided more ammunition for manipulation. Guilt weaponization, the emotional hostage situation. Toxic family members are experts at weaponizing guilt, using family loyalty, love, or obligation to manipulate behavior and suppress healthy boundaries. This technique is particularly damaging because it exploits natural human desires for connection and approval. Guilt weaponization sounds like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? Family should come first, but I guess I was wrong. I sacrificed everything for my children, and now they don't need me. If you loved me, you would understand. I'm getting old, and you're wasting precious time being angry." These statements create emotional hostage situations where the child or adult child feels trapped between their own needs and their family member's emotional well-being. The underlying message is that setting boundaries or asserting independence is selfish and harmful to the family member. Damien struggled with his father's guilt trips for years. Whenever Damien couldn't attend family events or needed to limit contact, his father would say things like, "I won't be around forever, son. I hope you don't regret missing this time with your old dad." The statements made Damien feel terrible about normal life priorities, like work commitments or spending time with his own nuclear family. Learning to recognize guilt weaponization helped Damien respond with empathy while maintaining his boundaries. "Dad, I know spending time together is important to both of us. Let's find a time that works better for everyone." Reality distortion, the gaslighting game. Perhaps the most psychologically damaging form of verbal manipulation involves rewriting history, minimizing harmful events, or questioning others' memories and perceptions. This gaslighting technique is designed to make the victim doubt their own reality and become more dependent on the manipulator's version of events. Reality distortion includes, "That never happened the way you remember it. You're being too sensitive about something so small. I think you're confused about what really occurred. You always exaggerate everything to make me look bad. Your memory has always been terrible." This technique is particularly harmful to children because their developing brains are still learning to trust their own perceptions and memories. When a trusted family member consistently questions their reality, children learn to doubt themselves rather than trust their instincts. The long-term effects include difficulty trusting their own judgment, increased susceptibility to manipulation by others, chronic self-doubt and anxiety, problems with decision-making, relationship difficulties in adulthood, teaching children to decode the language. Building your child's ability to recognize manipulative language requires age-appropriate education and ongoing support. Start by helping them understand that words can be used for different purposes beyond just sharing information. For younger children, ages 5 to 10, teach them that some people use words to try to make others feel bad about themselves. Help them identify how different words make them feel. Practice responding to guilt trips with simple phrases like, "I understand," or "That sounds hard." For older children, ages 11 to 18, discuss specific manipulation techniques using real examples from movies or books. Role-play different responses to manipulative statements. Help them understand that setting boundaries isn't mean or selfish. Teach them to trust their instincts when something feels wrong. Building immunity through understanding. Recognition creates immunity. When children understand how manipulative language works, they become less susceptible to its effects. They learn to hear the manipulation beneath the surface caring, and can respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. This understanding will prove invaluable as we move forward to explore why traditional parenting advice often fails in toxic family systems and learn specific strategies designed for these unique challenges. The war of words continues in every interaction, but knowledge becomes armor. When one stone changes everything. Toxic behavior in family systems operates like dropping a stone in still water. The impact radiates outward in ever-widening circles, affecting every member of the family in interconnected and often unexpected ways. Understanding these ripple effects is crucial for implementing practical, evidence-based strategies that work in real-world situations rather than ideal circumstances. One toxic family member can alter communication patterns, create alliances and divisions, and establish unhealthy dynamics that persist across generations if left unchecked. The ripple effect means that protecting your children requires more than just managing direct interactions with the toxic individual. You must also navigate the complex web of relationships, loyalties, and adaptations that toxic behavior creates throughout the entire family system. Triangulation patterns, the divide and control strategy. Triangulation occurs when a toxic individual creates conflicts between other family members to maintain control and avoid accountability for their own behavior. Instead of addressing issues directly, they involve third parties to carry messages, take sides, or validate their perspective. How triangulation works. The setup: the toxic individual shares selective information or complaints with different family members. The division: family members begin taking sides or questioning each other rather than focusing on the real problem. The control: while others argue or compete for favor, the toxic individual maintains their central position of power. Common triangulation scenarios include telling different family members conflicting stories about the same event, playing favorites among children or grandchildren to create jealousy, sharing private information to create mistrust between family members, using children as messengers or spies against other adults, creating competition for attention, approval, or resources. When Hannah began displaying increasingly erratic and manipulative behavior, the entire extended family system shifted to accommodate her volatility. Family gatherings became exercises in walking on eggshells, with everyone carefully monitoring their words and actions to avoid triggering an explosive reaction. Hannah noticed that her own children began exhibiting anxiety before family events, and her normally confident 10-year-old daughter started second-guessing herself constantly. The sister would frequently call other family members to complain about perceived slights, creating a web of gossip and divided loyalties. Hannah realized that her sister's behavior was creating a toxic environment that was affecting her children's emotional development. She had to make the difficult decision to limit contact and create boundaries.